Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and today I'm going to review Tender as the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica, translated by Sarah Moses. So I'm not normally super negative on my channel unless a book is like highly problematic, because I think most books have at least something that I like in them, but I really didn't like Tender as the Flesh, and the reason I wanted to do this review, like a negative review, is that the reviews out there have been overwhelmingly positive, and also a lot of people are touting this novel as having some deep commentary. So I thought I would put this out there as a counterpoint to the positive reception that this novel has received. So I'm going to make this a spoiler-free review. I might say a couple of things that are very, very mildly spoilerish, but I won't be giving away any plot points. So the premise of this book is that meat has become unsafe for human consumption, and so people have switched to breeding and slaughtering humans for meat. The main protagonist in this novel is called Marcos, and he is the supervisor of a meat processing plant. So we follow his inner thoughts, and a lot of that is surrounding kind of like how the different aspects of the society work in terms of from the breeding facilities through to the slaughterhouse and the processing plant, right through to the butcher shop. And you also get his inner monologue regarding his, I guess, apathy for what I'm going to call livestock humans, and also his kind of indifference to what society has become. There's a bit of a side storyline regarding Marcos's ailing father who was in a nursing home, and Marcos's kind of strained relationship with his sister who doesn't really involve herself in the care of her father. So to summarize my overall opinion before I get into the specifics of what I didn't like, I thought that the novel overall was really not substantial. I didn't think it really said anything or explored any concepts with any real depth at all. And I found the depiction of the oppressed people sorely lacking. So my first problem with this book was the sexism. I can't talk with a lot of detail here because I would get into pretty heavy spoiler territory talking about different things that happen in terms of the plot. But suffice it to say that a lot of power dynamics were ignored in this book, and women's agency wasn't explored where it definitely should have been. The behaviors of the livestock humans that are being raised as meat, their behaviors were heavily gendered and not based on the science of human behavior at all. I felt like the author really didn't do her homework in this regard. The submissive female thing really got on my last nerve very quickly, and the behaviors of the livestock humans in general were just not believable, but specifically the way that the women were written is not how humans would react in those situations. Even feral humans who have had no socialization do not act in those ways. The way in which women acted in this book is rooted in sexism. My second issue with the novel was the dehumanization of the livestock humans. So I get that the novel is through the eyes of someone who works at a meat processing plant. So obviously we are getting his perspective. So it makes sense that he would dehumanize them and that he would feel apathy, that he has lost his empathy for them, that he can compartmentalize what he's doing. But we, the reader, should feel something. But this book does not invite empathy, and I'm going to loop back around to this point later on. So my third issue with this novel is the lack of characterization. Not only is the main character Marcos frankly kind of boring and bland, but he undergoes no real meaningful character development throughout the novel. There's nothing that makes him question his society. And even that could have been explored, like the phenomenon of apathy could have been explored, but it wasn't. In a dystopian novel, if you have a protagonist who is part of the oppressive system, you have to either have them have a revelation or you have to put the microscope up to them in some sort of way. And I don't think that this book did that. I think that some people would argue that there was some sort of character development based on that secondary storyline of Marcos's ailing father, but that storyline is a complete dead end. So yeah, not great characterization in this book in my opinion. So my fourth issue is the complete lack of commentary in this book, and social commentary is something that dystopians are, I think, supposed to do. There is so much that could have been explored through this premise that just wasn't. This novel could have tackled environmental destruction, food insecurity, racism, classism, but it didn't. All the while I was reading this, I was thinking, are we going to have any sort of meaningful examination of how the society initially decided which humans were food humans? No, this book unpacks nothing. Now, I've heard arguments that this book is a commentary on capitalism, but I disagree. I really don't think that's fleshed out anywhere at all. So what is this book saying? So I think the obvious commentary here is that factory farming is cruel, or that the consumption of meat in general is cruel. And I really do think this is the commentary that the author was probably going for. But going back to what I said earlier about the livestock humans in this book being dehumanized, I felt that those humans were kept at arm's length throughout the novel, and I really struggled to muster up any empathy. And as an author, wouldn't you want to build empathy if the point you were trying to make was about the cruelty of factory farming or meat consumption? Now, I'm going to add a little aside here, because I think after having said that, some people might get the impression that, well, Melissa is just not very empathetic, or that only vegetarians or vegans could ever have empathy like reading this book. And I don't think that's the case, and I don't think that's fair. So I want to give like a little bit of context about me. I am compassionate and empathetic to the point where like I sometimes spiral thinking about human and animal suffering, to the point where like I can't read the news because I cry. I can't watch a video clip of someone else crying because I'll cry. I can't watch Moana because I'll cry. You see what I'm saying? I'm an overly sensitive person, probably to my own detriment. And one of my trigger points is cruelty to animals. So to think that because I didn't think that this book invites empathy is saying that, like, I don't care about factory farming or cruelty to animals is just wrong. So the plight of livestock living in factory farm conditions is not lost on me. I just don't think that this novel gave any sort of meaningful commentary on that. So I'm going to end this review with one last problem I had about this book, which might just be a personal preference of mine, but I think it is important enough to mention. So personally, I don't like the use of human comparisons to talk about animal rights issues. And often I think this can be like really inappropriate. And this book, while I was reading it, made me think of those awful PETA ads from a few years back where they had juxtaposed pictures of cows being hung for slaughter with real pictures of Black people being lynched. Those ads were just so wrong. And reading this book kind of gave me similar types of vibes. By all means, be a vegetarian or a vegan if you think that eating meat is wrong. And yes, please do care about the conditions in which animals live, and please do care about cruelty to animals, but do so without comparison to atrocities that humans have faced. Again, maybe if there had been some sort of commentary about how the humans in this society had been initially selected for meat consumption, whether that was racism or classism or whatever, I think the book could have been so much better. But again, nothing is unpacked in this novel. And I guess I just don't think you need to use human suffering to make people care about animal suffering. We don't have to think of another animal as human in order to care about that animal being in pain. Now, am I being overly sensitive? I honestly don't know. What I do know is that I didn't like the book. And it's fine if you like it. It's fine if you want to read it. I just want to encourage everyone to think critically while they're reading this book, because the reasons I've seen for why this book is really smart or really deep, I didn't see any of those reasons reflected in the text. So the last thing I want to leave you with is actually someone else's review on Goodreads, which basically summarized a lot of what I felt about this book. Intriguing premise, mediocre execution. The author tiptoes around all the possible implications of the world she's created to focus on what? Some self-absorbed dude's internal monologue? Why? So those are my thoughts. If you have your own thoughts about this book, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care.